Thank you so much. Okay, I hope this is the correct positioning. Okay, perfect. Thank you again, for having me. I've been a very big fan of Erica's for many years, and also everything she's done for the community in Seoul for many years. So it's a pleasure to be here as always. So. This talk I gave a version of a couple of months ago in New York, which is a topic I'm very excited about because it is a slight, I would say, upgrade to what we've been working on for the past number of years in the stablecoin space. It's highly consumer-facing. It's highly, I would argue, new and exciting in terms of hopefully driving mainstream awareness or usage of stablecoins kind of beyond the traditional DeFi crypto use cases, which we all know and love, but I think we can go further beyond. So the title of my talk is obviously Payments Become Noble with Programmable Rewards. So let's talk about what that means. I'm not going to belabor this point. I think everyone at this point understands what stablecoins are. Obviously, with Noble, we've been very excited to be building purpose-built stablecoin infrastructure for a number of years. Originally, our sort of focus and ambition was solving for very crypto-native concerns around liquidity fragmentation and access to on-chain stablecoin issuance. And when we started the project about 3.5 years ago, these were still, concerns that were left unresolved. I would argue 3.5 years later, we've come a very long way, such that a lot of these concerns have been solved for, and of course, with things like the Genius Act in the US, and of course, with legislation in Korea, a lot of this technology will very soon become mainstream because a lot of the legal treatment of these assets will be a forcing function to have these assets be more widely adopted in traditional kind of mainstream environments. But of course, these stablecoins, at the end of the day, it's programmable digital money, they're fully backed, they're compliant instruments that, of course, are continuing to grow more and more. There was a very attractive report by Citibank a couple of months ago that said, or a few months ago, that said the market cap for stablecoins will reach, over $3 trillion by 2030. That's a huge number. We're only at, I think, around $350 billion right now. But again, the reason that this number will continue to grow is partially because of legislation, partially because of some of the technical, improvements behind stablecoins themselves, but I would argue it will come from actual distribution, right? So people using these payment instruments in very normal consumer-facing ways that feel a lot more like a Web 2 fintech application than they do like a crypto application. Very, very quickly, what is Noble? So as I mentioned, we started the project about 3.5 years ago, and this was very much solving for this infrastructural concerns that I mentioned. Things like instant finality, things like settlement, things like solving for liquidity fragmentation, things like speed, things like gas abstraction. All of these things have now been solved for. I would argue these are table stakes. It is not as interesting anymore to have things like gas abstraction, but of course a few years ago these were still things that we had to contend with. I'm sure many people in the room can remember having not too long ago to have to pay for transaction fees in the native protocol token versus a stable coin. These were very annoying things to have to deal with. And of course, now all of these things are abstracted away. So Noble, of course, we have these kind of 3 pillars that we have been working towards over the past few years. One is asset issuance. So we did actually launch our own stable coin called Noble Dollar, which we launched in partnership with a team called M0. Noble Dollar was this very exciting experiment to basically have a composable yield as a service. So basically, composable yield allowed any developer, including ourselves, to basically take the yield, which is the Treasury bill yield rate, and kind of divide it and compose it across different applications, depending on different use cases and incentives. We grew that to about $125 million at the peak. And of course, since then, we've realized something very important, which is that at the end of the day, the distribution partners that actually leverage these stablecoins are the ones that you have to build for, right? And so looking at the second category around stablecoin-centric applications, we had the very amazing privilege for the last year to basically work with one of the largest retailers in the US to basically reinvent their payments and loyalty systems across their stores. So this is something that we'll get to in a moment, but really over our experience, one thing that we understood kind of at a fundamental level is these dollars, yes, they're really powerful assets for DeFi and trading. These are, globally accessible assets. They're, able to be used 24/7. They have this instant liquidity functions. But at the end of the day, they are also highly, highly useful for more traditional kind of use cases, which we'll go to in a moment. Okay, so why is this interesting? Why are stablecoins, at the center of the stage all of a sudden? Yes, the numbers are really impressive, right? When you see a bank like Citi say that the market will reach $3 trillion, everyone obviously will write about that and, take a look at it. But I would argue there's a much larger history to the current moment that isn't necessarily talked about as much, which is why stablecoins are taking a front seat in the discussions around the future of payments. And one of those things is something around the ascendancy of fintech and embedded finance. A lot of the ways that consumers interact online, with their bank, with different lending products like buy now, pay later, is, of course, in a very digitally native way. Stablecoins themselves, as these native internet dollars, are an extension of these already existing habits that we've formed over the last 10 years or so. And more importantly, stablecoins as these internet native dollars allow these companies like retailers, like brands, like even maybe creators and influencers to basically almost become their own bank, right? Because you have the infrastructure that is both legal and technical underpinning this like stablecoin product, you have this ability for actually these companies to really own their customers in a new way. So here we kind of get to the solution that we've been working towards over the past number of years. So we call this use case merchant dollars, but there's other ways that you can basically think about this solution. So at the end of the day, what is the solution, right? We've talked about stablecoins, we understand what they are, but how do stablecoins fit in this very traditional world of retailers and merchants and brands? So first, it's very important. Retailers, they build the brand, they own the distribution, they own the customer, and they facilitate this loyalty in different ways. Traditionally, retailers and merchants have given up their payments infrastructure and their loyalty infrastructure to banks. My understanding is the loyalty economy is also quite significant in Korea. So, every time you make a purchase with your Amex or your credit card, or maybe you spend a certain amount at a certain store, you get all of these incentives and benefits to basically keep coming back. In the US, obviously, there is a huge discussion around interchange fees. Merchants themselves are charged 3 to 4% on every transactions. They pay hundreds of billions of dollars in fees. And while those fees get funneled back to incentives, they are still a huge liability on their balance sheet. And so over the past year, as we've been thinking about the merchants and retailers and stores, everyone from, from the Walmarts of the world to a convenience store on the corner, we've considered, what if we can basically flip the model of your traditional credit card model that incurs very high interchange fees, and could we basically create a loyalty program, a rewards program for these merchants, and also potentially influencers, creators, basically any entity that has a following that commands brand loyalty and attention. Could we basically create a system where the stablecoin held in a consumer's wallet basically becomes the driver of loyalty and spend, that behaves more like a checking account or even a savings account in your wallet than a traditional kind of closed loop loyalty program? It's very important to consider that, when we think about stablecoins being used for payments, a lot of people, make a very good argument, which is, well, why am I going to buy a coffee with a stablecoin versus my debit card or my credit card or cash? Like, what is actually the incentive for me to use USDC to pay for a coffee? And I would argue we can take a lot of lessons from the early formations of the credit card industry and take some of those lessons for stablecoins being used for payments, which is basically that early on, to get people comfortable using a credit card in the 70s in the US, they were offered incentives and points and, again, gift cards and loyalty, programs to make them comfortable with the idea of using debt to fund purchases. Today, stablecoins are debit products. They are not credit. But at the same time, they don't have that sticky incentive to kind of force people into this habit of using stablecoins as a form of payment. And so one of the things that we really understood as we have been working with various retailers in the US over the past year is that their loyalty programs, again, those very sticky benefits, are actually monopolized by banks and by payment providers. So they don't own these programs. They don't own the ability to incentivize the customer directly. They always have to go through an intermediary as the way to capture the customer. Even though they own the loyalty of the customer, they have to still rely on the bank and the payments companies to basically incentivize them. And so, as we, again, I've been looking into this problem very deeply, we understood that, of course, loyalty is monopolized by legacy payment providers, and at the end of the day, they are very antiquated sort of systems for kind of, owning these folks. So we wanted to flip this model on the head and say, let's not treat these rewards programs as something that are, kind of non-fungible. These are, points that aren't money. Let's think about the stablecoin balance itself, the dollar, as the driver of loyalty and incentives. So how would this work in practice? Everyone here has obviously used a stablecoin, and everyone here, I assume, has a wallet of various crypto wallets. So you'll feel familiar with some of these kind of processes. But basically, imagine, let's say it's Shinsegae, because Shinsegae is obviously a big retailer here in Korea that has a lot of, customers and amazing things to offer. So let's say Shinsegae theoretically were to offer a stablecoin-powered loyalty product. So as a customer that is very, loyal about Shinsegae, I would deposit a stablecoin. Okay, so let's say in US dollar terms, just to keep it simple, I'm going to deposit $100 US in the form of a stablecoin. On the back end, that US dollar stablecoin is earning yield, and that yield gets funneled into rewards. As the retailer, as Shinsegae, I have the ability to actually, incentivize people to keep topping up. So it's almost like a savings product that can also be used as a payments product. So over some period of time, I get additional rewards. I earn those rewards. I spend those rewards. I want to keep earning those rewards in my wallet. Obviously, this is a programmable digital dollar. So as the retailer, as the entity administering the product, the program. I can keep, obviously, kind of funneling those rewards to that live stablecoin balance. The merchant, of course, earns the yield, and they get to basically funnel that into more and more spend. So it's a very, I would say, straightforward application for a stablecoin, because on the one hand, it has the kind of mechanism baked into it to basically have those rewards be accrued, have the ability to distribute those rewards 24/7, 365 days a year. It's a live stablecoin balance. And because these stablecoins are, again, regulated payment instruments, I actually have the ability to use those dollars as a form of payment. So we like to think that with stablecoins, it'll be very easy for any entity to become a bank, right? I just have to open up a stablecoin deposit address, as, let's say, Shinsegae. I can not only receive stablecoins, but I can also distribute rewards via the stablecoin and kind of continue that flywheel of, of spend and incentives. So, one of the things that we're really excited about is actually these digital assets to empower different companies, again, in this use case, retailers, brands, could even be influencers, into having this direct, ongoing relationship with their customer, with the stablecoin as the financial kind of incentive mechanism to keep people, engaged and incentivized and excited about, what they're offering. So, from bank-owned accounts to merchant-branded stablecoins, right? So traditionally, the banks have, of course, played such a huge role in this loyalty economy. Again, every time you take a flight or you, swipe your credit card at Walmart, or you pay for a hotel room on, Booking.com, every time you basically use your bank issued credit cards, there's the interchange fee which gets charged to the merchant. With stablecoins, you take that interchange fee out of the picture. You allow the merchant, the brand, to basically own a lot more of the customer relationship and ability to incentivize, loyalty and offer rewards, because you have this stablecoin product kind of underlying this system of exchange. So we find it very exciting, and basically, if we can use these assets to reward customers and have them be incentivized to use those assets for payments, then I think we can finally crack that code around, how do we get average people to basically use these digital assets beyond your traditional, crypto use cases. So that is something that we're very, very motivated by. And that is that. Thank you.